All right, Ms. Johnson. So now we went over your state benefits. Please take advantage of them. They're free to you. You're entitled to these through the state since you're over 50 and a resident here in the state of Georgia. Now, the last thing we go over, the most important thing we do, it's really what we specialize in. What most people call us out for is help with the state regulated life insurance and final expense programs. Now, we are licensed by the state. So this license right here allows me to do a couple different things. Now, we help people that have insurance and we help people that's looking for insurance. The first thing we do for people that have insurance in place, we take a look at it with them. We make sure they're taking advantage of all the new discounts and benefits that become available since COVID, since the CARES Act was passed. A lot of these companies are adding on additional things many people aren't even aware they can get, like accidental plans, cancer insurance, nursing home coverage. So we want to make sure that you get that added on there, usually at no additional cost. And then for people that's looking for some extra coverage or maybe looking for their first plan, we make sure we recommend, since we're licensed by the state to work with all the companies, we make sure we recommend which one of these companies is going to give you the best rate. Just like all people are different, all the insurance companies have different specialties. And I scroll down and I'm showing my carrier pages, guys. So they're going to see Gerber. I say, hey, look, Gerber, they have some of the best kids plans on the market, almost as good as Mutual of Omaha's new ones. That'll set you up to get Gerber from Gerber to Mutual of Omaha if they have Gerber in place. And I say, Americo, if you're a smoker, they usually give about 30% less on their smoker plans. So again, we just want to match people up to maximize your portfolio when it comes to your life insurance. Now, this is really the most important thing that I'm going to show you. A lot of people see the companies. I've shown you about the benefits. I've shown you my family. Now, when it gets to the different types of life insurance, most people aren't aware there's different types. They get a policy, they think they check that box, they're good to go forever. That's not true. So when you're talking about term and whole life, most people's heard about term, most people's familiar with whole life, but then this last one, universal whole life, most people have never heard about it. So let me start at the top. I'm gonna start with term. I don't care what company you get a term plan through, it's all gonna have three things in common. The first thing about term is it's going to go up one in price. Usually every 5 years, you're getting hit with a rate increase. So anytime your birthday ends in a 5 or 0, happy birthday, pay us more money. Happy birthday, pay us more money. All right, the second thing about term, see that cash value line? It always stays at 0. All right, so you're paying all this money, you never gain any equity, any cash value in your plan. Have you ever heard about people borrowing off your insurance policy? You have? Well, they didn't have a term because you can't borrow off term because there's no cash value. Now, the third thing, the most important thing about term, see that stop sign right there? It stands for terminating life insurance. So it all has an expiration date, usually about 75, 80 years old. It's the max. Can't have it after that. So you're paying all this money just to find out at 80, you got nothing to show for it. Now, the problem with that, Ms. Johnson, is men and women live past 80. Men are like 82, 83. Women are a little bit more, but most people outlive 80. All right, and if you Google what percentage of term life insurance pays a claim, it's going to tell you 99% never result in a claim because of the lapse rate, because that policy is going to jump up in price and people are going to have to let it go. And those few that can afford to pay those increases, they pay in all that money just to find out when they turn 80, they have nothing to show for it and they lose their insurance. Most people don't want something like that, Ms. Johnson, because then they get whole life. So the problem with getting whole life is there's two types of whole life. Which one are you supposed to get? How are you supposed to know? There's traditional whole, there's whole universal. Now both of these grow cash value, and this is where people get tricked up because they see the cash value in their plan and they think they got the right one. Not entirely true. Traditional whole life, that cash value line only goes up. It's the only one with no stop sign, okay? Now, I'm not saying this to people that's 50, 55, perfectly healthy, you're gonna pitch an IULE. Just keep that in mind. These are, somebody that you're not going to pitch the IULE to, or some kind of universal where you're going to like overfund it in the beginning, make it last forever. So go back to, with traditional whole life, I tell them the cash value only goes up, no stop sign. It's the one that's guaranteed to pay out, and your price is locked in forever. It never changes. And I say this universal, and I say, look, it looks identical the first 10, 15 years. Other than the color being different. The cash value goes up the same. Your price stays the same in the beginning. But you don't buy insurance for the beginning, Ms. Johnson. You buy it for the end when you're going to need it most, when your family's going to need it, okay? Now, if you look at the backside, the end of these policies, they look very different. One looks like it's going to be forever and it's guaranteed. The other one looks like there's a stop sign like in term. And once that cash value goes down and runs out, it turns into a term because your rate's jacked way up. And if you can't afford to pay it, you got to cancel. You're in the same boat. Which one did you say you had, Miss Johnson? Who'd you say you have? And this is where, guys, if you explain it just like that, you're going to get a lot of policy reviews. So learn this from Sam Pittman. You know, a lot of policy reviews because even if they have a whole life, you make it sound very similar, which they are, but you're throwing a little confusion in there. So they should jump up and go grab their policy. If they don't, this is where, you know, if they want to stonewall, and you know that game where they play like, oh, I'm good, I got a policy. Then I'm just going to go into asking them some small probing questions about, do you know who you're paying? How long have you had it? You know, and then asking them, hey, you might have the right type, you just might have got the wrong grade. What risk class did you get offered? Do you know if you got the graded or the modified plan? Do you know if that's a fraternal or mutual policy? So these questions, they're not going to know the answer. And since you ask them 2 or 3 questions, they don't know the answer, and you look like a really concerned look on your face, like you just act like you're thinking about something, concerned, and they're going to be looking at you, and you ask them again another question that they don't know the answer to. Listen, Miss Johnson, since you don't know, I'm going to do a couple of things. What I'm going to do, I'm going to get you a duplicate policy sent out here. Every year, tens of millions of dollars go unpaid. It's not because they're not paying the claims. It's because the beneficiaries don't know what company to call. They don't have a policy. They don't know what to do. All right, so I'm going to get you an extra one. You can either put it in your safe or you can get it to your beneficiary. You need an extra one. We can't find the one we have right now. And then while I'm on the phone getting that, I'm going to ask them, I'm going to make sure that we get those extra benefits put on your plan if they're eligible. And I'm going to make sure that this is not one that's going to go up in price or cancel on you before you do. Ring, ring, ring. Tell the client what you're going to do. All right, so we're not asking, we're telling. Now, at that point, and I put the policy review page right here below my step 4 of my presentation, just to remind newer agents where to go. So I'm going to get them on the phone. And before that, I'm kind of prepping the client. Hey, look, you don't have your policy. I'm going to call. I'm going to ask them some questions. They're going to need to verify. And then they're going to hand the phone back to me. And I'm going to ask them, I'm showing them, I'm going to ask them all these questions right here. And then ring, ring, ring. I get them on the phone. Hey, ARP. Hey, you know, this is BDunn. I'm sitting here with Miss Johnson, your client. She has a policy with you. We are unable to locate it. We're hoping you can help us look it up by her name and information. We know she's paying about $65 a month in here. We know it's going to ARP or New York Life, but we don't know what she's paying for. Can you help us out? And then ask for the help at the end. And it's a non-threatening way. Like, these people are not going to like have their little radar going off that you're trying to do anything. So they should verify the client, hand the phone back to you, and you ask all the questions. Hey, term, whole life, universal, issue date, premium. And remember to look at that cheat sheet, because you know you're going to need to ask, hey, is there any price increases? Is there any price increases? And ask every price increase until it either says, well, that's the end, it cancels, or the client like grabs you and says, hey, that's enough, I'm not paying that. Okay, that's when you know you've done enough. Either it cancels or the client stops you. Face amount, sometimes terms go down, all right? Sometimes these coverages like ULs, they'll drop their face amount to keep the premium the same. Same with the term. Ask writers, cash value, ask everything on the policy review page, because we're gonna need all the ammo. I'd rather you not have to call back in and stay on hold again. So make sure you ask all the questions. And then once you get off the policy review, this is where you're setting up the N&O.